Do the clap. All right. First thing I'd like to do is to thank everyone who came yesterday and worked so hard on this property. If everything had worked, I would have shown you a 22-second video of a humongous truck that came and parked in front of the building, and then I forget the name of the company, but they're soil and rock movers, conveyor, is part of the title. And this guy parked out there, he put on this controller thing, like the ultimate game controller. And then the boom of the truck turned over, and then he raised it up, and then he started firing dirt over the trees. And they came into the backyard, and he fired 18 cubic yards of three-way, as it's called. You learn the jargon. It's 1/3 sand, 1/3 dirt, and 1/3 compost. And it was a big pile out here. And yesterday, the locusts came with their wheelbarrows and their shovels. And I do, before you go today, take a look outside, especially if you're new, take a look at our gorgeous wheelchair ramps and tell anyone you know in a wheelchair they can get in now. But it's beautiful. There was because of the wheelchair ramp, we had to create sidewalks, and there was about a 6 to 10 inch drop from the sidewalk down to the grass, which was going to hurt somebody. And so we moved this dirt in. So now it's level with the lawn. It's quite lovely. The next step is planting and getting it all to grow. So thank you to everyone who was here. Who was here? Please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, a bunch. And the gardens got cleaned out and the grasses were cut. We're in a place of readiness for fall and winter. That's really wonderful. It looks so nice too. Okay. Part of our aspiration in doing this work of training the heart-mind is learning to live in harmony with each other, with our loved ones and with ourselves, and with the people around us. And we are joining into a cultural phenomenon that has been happening for a long time, but it's in the form of a land acknowledgement, to realize that we're not the first people to be in this neck of the woods. People lived here for between 10 to 15,000 years before we got here, before Caucasians got here. Who's the we here? But so it does something good for the heart to acknowledge what happened here. It's such an interesting cultural struggle to acknowledge. There's this whole thing around the country that in many places one is not allowed to teach true history now because I'm going to take a diversion. Several years ago, my wife and I, Jennifer, went to New Orleans. She went to school there and she loves the jazz festival. So we went and she showed me her places. Cool. And then we went to a place called the Whitney Plantation. How many of you ever heard of the Whitney Plantation? Have you ever been? Heavy. The Whitney Plantation is not a fancy plantation that shows how wonderfully the white people lived. It really brings slavery to life. And there are walls there, like our Vietnam War wall here, but with, was it 20,000, 30,000 names of enslaved people who lived in Louisiana. And it blew my socks off. And then I started reading, and it got more and more. There's an amazing book if you're ever interested, called The Half Has Not Been Told, which is the story of how the wealth of the Western world was created in 30 or 40 years around the turn of around 1800 to 1840 on the backs of enslaved people. There were stock markets. There were stocks. You know how we had mortgage-backed securities? There were slave-backed securities. And so the wealth of Europe and America the fundamental wealth was created then. So I don't want to belabor that too long, but just to remember, to kind of open our hearts that something big has happened here. And it happened also with the native people, and that's what this land announcement or land acknowledgement is. So this is what we've come up with. PIMC, the Portland Insight Meditation Community, honors and recognizes that the place where we gather here is ancestral land for many people, including the Clackamas, Cowlitz, and the 7 tribes of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and the 27 bands of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians. We respectfully acknowledge all indigenous communities of the past, present, and future. The original human inhabitants of this land were forced to leave for the benefit of colonists.
Come rain or shine, the job must get done.
We acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many indigenous
Call
communities.
clickgranger.com or just
We're grateful for their
Granger,
stewardship
for
of the
ones
lands and
who get it
acknowledge the
done.
benefit we continue to receive. We're committed to remain mindful of and make ongoing efforts to recognize their knowledge, creativity, and resilience. And I would be of the inclination to say that one of the most important things we can do for this cause, for the cause of planetary warming, for all the various crucial important causes, is to clean up our own internal act and to become more loving. So let's do that. I invite you to sit comfortably upright. To notice that you're alive. To notice that we're alive. And how is it that we notice? What do we notice when we pay attention to being here? If we attend to the body, what about that place where the body makes contact with the chair or the floor, the pressure there? How about the life in the legs and the feet? What about the life in what you would think of as your face? It really is alive, isn't it, this body? Mostly it's as though we look out from it, but this is turning in to know the body itself as life. And something the body's been doing for a long time. Ever since your mother could no longer breathe for you, it's been breathing in and breathing out. And so quite wonderfully and mysteriously, we're able to pay attention to this breathing in and breathing out. So let's do that. Let's take breath, the sensations of breathing, as a kind of home base. We are practicing a mental capacity, sati, that's translated as mindfulness. More accurately, heart-mind fullness. And mindfulness is that mysterious knowing. The great teacher Ajahn Chah called it the one who knows, that in us which knows. And it can know the breath is coming and going. It can also know the wandering mind. And so with great kindness, really with ultimate love and compassion, we undertake the noble journey, the noble task of taking responsibility for what happens in the mind. Which means that when the mind wanders, we have the intention of waking up to that. When the mind is restless, we notice that. When the mind is filled with desire or wanting something, that which knows notices that. When there's disliking, that too is noticed, not condemned. When there's sleepy dullness, sloth and torpor, it's noticed. And somehow we potentiate this noticing by coming home to breathing when we can. And we assist this by being attentive to the very beginning, the middle, and the end of each breath when we can. Here in the room, there's a rather pleasant experience. I experience it as pleasant. The attribution of it is there's a slight breeze. But we don't experience a breeze. We experience a kind of fluttering coolness on some parts of the body. So we can observe that as temperature. And so when we discover the mind lost in some rabbit hole, some fantasy land, we come home to here and now.
Ukrainian forces have broken through Russian defences in the south of the country while expanding their rapid offensive in the east. They're seizing back more territory in areas annexed by Russia and threatening supply lines for its troops. Russian-installed officials have acknowledged Ukraine's advances in the Kherson region, one of 4 that Russia illegally annexed last week. Ukrainian troops are said to have gained territory as much as 30 kilometres away from where the front stood just days ago.
Troops raising the flag allegedly in Kherson, which had just been illegally annexed by Russia.
Each breath does,
In
in
Donetsk,
fact,
another region Russia claims as its own,
have its beginning.
Ukrainians ride through in tanks, some of them captured and still bearing the Russian war symbol Z.
This technica comes from Liman. It's Russian vehicle, and now this machine will work for our armed forces.
Though Russia recently announced it was annexing 4 regions of Ukraine, Ukrainian troops keep recapturing territory.
One of the core teachings from the Buddha is that all that really exists in our experience is now. We experience the past as thoughts now. We experience the future as thoughts, fantasies now. It's a revolutionary idea. But we are training ourselves to live in the present moment. And to live in the present moment means that we see thoughts as thoughts. We know emotions as emotions. Increasingly, we see our belief systems as belief systems, ideologies as ideologies. And so it's not a small thing to bring awareness here to the present moment, to this breath. To be present with the beginning, middle, and end of this breath now. We sit here right at the leading edge of consciousness evolution. Every time the mind wanders off into trance states and then awakens, there's awakening happening, and we wake up from that particular story is a movement toward living in the present moment. So let us become as intimate as we can with this breath, with any thoughts that occur, with whatever the mood is. Our journey of awakening won't be very successful unless it's also rooted in love. In love, there's room for everything. Not romantic love, not love with any attachment or clinging, but love as the willingness to inhabit reality. And while this self of ours is evanescent and very temporary, it's still important, it's radically important that we come to love this that we are for a while. One simple practice is the ancient mantra, I love you, with your name at the end. I love you exactly as you are, for yourself. it's a big move. I love you in your unfinishedness. I love you even though you've done some pretty unskillful things in your lifetime. I love you even with your addictions and compulsions. This is a real I love you. It's not a conditional I love you, it's you. Another way of saying it is I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. And of course, being a human in a human body, there's quite a lot of pain and suffering. Having a human personality, there's lots of suffering. So we also have an inclination toward compassion. I aspire, whenever I'm hurting, no matter how I'm hurting, to hold myself in sweet compassion, in kindness, in patience. In addition to the body and the various mental phenomena that occur, the teachings also include an emphasis on observing what's pleasant and what's not pleasant. and the accompanying liking and disliking. For it's this liking and disliking that drives us through the world, the seeking pleasure and resisting the unpleasant. So we can notice in a kind of generalized way, is this experience in this moment pleasant or unpleasant? Or maybe it's kind of neutral. Is the little coolness that occurs pleasant or unpleasant, or neutral? Is this particular wandering mind pleasant or unpleasant, or neutral? And so one moment at a time, we wake up to what's happening. We notice breathing in. We notice out breathing. We are wired to experience ourselves as separate. It's part of the survival of the species. We know better, though, because we spring out of the earth and are here for a few eye blinks. And so an integral part of this practice, since its beginning, has been an intention of sharing the merits. May all beings everywhere share in the benefits and the merits of this practice time together. And sometimes we're encouraged to reflect upon different persons and categories of persons, like, may everyone in this room benefit from our practice. May everyone in all the homes around us, may all of our Zoom friends and the people that surround them And in a way, we start visualizing or feeling our way into our interbeing with all of life. Maybe you have your favorite animal species. May the lemurs of Madagascar, the wolves of northern Canada, the whales, all of the 8 billion humans, all humans of all political stripes, and so it goes until we are feeling our way into our interbeing with the birds, the worms, the microscopic beings. May all beings share in the merits of our practice. And please conjure up a kind thought, a thought of blessing. Like something like, may you be happy, or may you be healthy, may you be safe. And then let's notice the eyes, the face, and the intention to allow the eyes to open, and then make the effort to open the eyes and watch something that happens, which is seeing. Seeing. And to the degree that it's comfortable for you, here in the room, I invite you to turn and meet the eyes of other people with your little blessing thought in mind, like, I hope you're safe. I hope you stay healthy for a long time. May your relationship go well. Relationships. And on Zoom, pretty easy there to look into your little Harry Potter windows and go from one person to another with some thought of blessing. And notice what happens. Sometimes it's hard. Someone noticed, someone saw me, and then we have a reaction. That's part of the practice. I'm not sure is the grid showing up on Zoom or just me? Huh? So for those of you on Zoom, you can scroll with that little bar at the side, I think. I've got it set on me because this will, I think, get loaded up to YouTube, and it's much more confidential for you if this is the case. So normally I make some announcements now and then move on to Jim, but I want to go in a slightly different, a radically different direction actually for a few minutes. Sometimes when these intuitions come, I want to take advantage of them. I understood the land acknowledgement in a very different way this morning. And I feel teary as I'm speaking. I watched myself this morning trying to get the broadcast going. And it's been quite a struggle since the beginning of COVID. I think we're close. We're close to really getting it stable. But it was very difficult. And it was really stressful. And I got to watch the whining mind. It's not fair. I wanted to have this hour to prepare my talk. And poor me, this is hard, right? It's really hard. And I got to watch the wanting to pick up the computer and smash it mind. But none of it got acted out. Those are old conditionings. Those are old habitual thoughts. And in fact, seen from a greater perspective, I'm not hunkering down in one of those tents over on Powell Boulevard right now. Sitting here struggling with a computer is really privileged struggle. I'm not returning to my home that's been flooded or blown up. So, what I was doing was what I've been trained to do, and what we're all training to do, was to watch the human mind in its acting, in its impulses, and purifying them, not succumbing to them, not giving into them, not acting them out. The land acknowledgement, and that little acknowledgement I did toward the horrors of slavery, are part of a practice of working to train our own consciousness so we will never be the perpetrators of such horrors. Because one thing that's becoming clearer and clearer to me is, the Buddha said this actually, that until awakening, given the right or the wrong conditioning, any human being is capable of the most heinous act, right? Some years ago, I watched, it was a short thing, a 20-minute documentary of before the agreement happened in Northern and Southern Ireland. But there was about a 5 or 7 minute piece of a family in Northern Ireland teaching their children to hate the Southerners. And there was a similar thing of the Southerners teaching their children to hate the Northerners. And this is true on every side of every polarity, right? The Palestinians train their children, and the Israelis train their children, and the Hutu and the Tutsi. And I listened to a 45-minute podcast the other day of what's happening in India with the Hindu majority is they're creating a hate scene. In fact, Bollywood, the famous Indian movie production place, which has always had the really big stars have often been Muslim. They're not anymore. You can't make a movie in India that shows Muslims as other than terrorists and horrible people. It's just not, it doesn't happen. So, we come to meditate to learn how to calm ourselves down, right? To suffer less from stress. Mindfulness is, all of mindfulness-based stress reduction it's huge all over the Western world now, because it really helps. We can learn to calm ourselves down. And we can actually learn to calm down the amygdala so our stress response is actually less. We can learn to become aware of our psychological and emotional patterns. And we can learn really, what's it called? Dialectical behavior therapy based in mindfulness. We can learn to modulate our emotions. Right? We can learn to not pick up the computer and smash it. We can learn to not fire back that nasty email. We can learn to not enter the fight with our partner. Because we learn, oh, wait a minute, I need to stop. My emotions are out of control here. I'll be back in half an hour. We learn how to do that kind of thing. And then the meditation becomes the question of who am I? Who am I, really? And what about this fact that I get born and then live a lifetime and die? That's pretty strange. And we learn how to observe our thoughts. And we learn that our thoughts are not personal. All over the world, I just mentioned the one that's happening in India, East, I guess, yeah. Here in our country, this big lie thing that's happening is a form of madness. And any one of us could be on that side. Maybe there are some people in this room who are. Depending upon what information we take in, we become that. And what we're doing here, I hope we're doing, is an inoculation against any ideology that would create, here's the point I wanted to get to. Whoa. There's a very beautiful Avett Brothers song, "When my body won't hold me anymore, and I'm finally set free." But the last lines, the last 4 sentences are, "I have no enemies. I have no enemies. I have no enemies. I have no enemies." And this practice is all about illuminating any enemies that we hold in our consciousness, anyone we have enemy images about, and to see that that enemy imaging process is ours. There's one more thought I wanted to be sure to touch. In that very powerful book, The Half Has Not Been Told, one of the details that caught me was that the slave owners, the men, had a rate of murder between themselves which was 10 times as high as in the non-slave colonies. They were insane. Now, it doesn't in any way justify or validate their actions. The fact that Europeans thought that it was their right to get them to take over, to travel around the world and create colonies, it was insanity. They were all crazy. I mean, one piece of their craziness was they landed in Africa and they saw no religion. because they were bringing Christianity. So why am I saying all this? I guess it's let us use our land recognition as an invitation to be compassionate with ourselves and with everybody on every side of every horror, and maybe to prepare ourselves to never let it happen again, to the best of our ability, right? To bring peace to our families, to bring peace to everything we do, and to recognize that when everyone we're dealing with is ourselves. One more story comes up. Quite some time ago, there was a person here at PIMC, a woman who was very active in, I can say this, I think, yeah. She was very active at the national level in women's right to choose. And she had face-to-face contact with the power brokers in Washington, the very famous political people. And she had a very interesting discovery because she hated them. And she was burning up. And so she decided that she would practice learning how to love them and see them as herself. And she worked really hard at it. And she discovered she could do it. And she discovered she was far more effective in every interaction because she didn't lose it. She could see the little boys in those men and the little girls in those women. So she brought love to it, and she was much more effective. Didn't stop the recent yucky development, horrible development, but so let me just see if that's what I wanted to say. Another piece, one piece. There's one thing I feel a little uncomfortable about in the land statement. If it results in feeling guilty, it's not a wise statement. If it results in waking up, it's a great statement. Because guilt is no help. If it results in us feeling empowered and then saying, well, maybe there is some place for reparations here. Maybe we need to really negotiate. I'm by birth Canadian, and I teach in Canada a bunch, and they're doing amazing stuff in Canada with the First Nations people. They're negotiating land returns and amazing. It's possible. But if it leads us to guilt, that's no help. So, I think I'm going to pause and invite you to stay and do a little movement with Jim. And then I want to come back and see if there's any response or question to what I just shared. The mind finished that, or if I get run out of town on a rail. It's nuts. This human mind is totally insane. So what do you think, Jim? Are you good up for that? Oh, and incidentally, there will be pizza today, leftover from it's good pizza from the work party yesterday, and coffee and tea and an opportunity to get to know one another. There are very nice people that congregate in that room. Okay, I'm going to pause. Mhm. All right, Jimbo.
Whoa. I'm still. So, no, I need to be over. Oh, I see. It's that camera. I see. It's that camera. Well, that's good. I'm in the, oh, well, I don't have a head. Oh, there I have a head. All right. Here we stand, in touch with the feet. In touch with a cord. Okay. How do we know we're standing? There's sensations in the bottoms of the feet. We can move our hips back and forth, and that takes the center of gravity just a few inches one direction, a few inches the other, and all kinds of sensations come into awareness. We can go forward and back without lifting the heel, without lifting the toes. Just shifting the weight creates a sensation of like a massage on the feet. And we're all connected from the feet, through the legs, through the torso, into the crown of the head. There's a continuous set of signals going on. So when we massage the feet, there's a general feeling of healing, healing through the whole body. If we move the hips in a way that feels like a circle, then the massage changes a little bit. It's a little more complex. But it's having the same kind of healing effect on the whole body because we're all connected. Go the other direction. When Robert was talking about the doctrine of discovery that came out of Europe, they discovered. My ancestors, discovered the people of another continent with the assumption that they were not religious because a lot of them were pantheists. And what flashed through my mind is I have the experience of directing my attention to my, I'll use the word subdominant foot, my dominant foot. For all of you, you've got the same polarity in your body. There's most likely, there's one side that's more familiar to have agency in the world. So we move from from the dominant side to the subdominant side, and it's not like there's a war going on between those two. There's cohesion, there's a communal communication. We're pantheists. We see the sacred in the dominant side and the other side. If we lift them both together using the arms, there's a very nice feeling of pleasant release and relief in joints that have been sitting very still for 45 minutes this morning. And now, did my voice just change? Is it still coming through the, okay. I thought somehow the echo changed. All right, so this is symmetry. We can move together and the right hand knows exactly what the left hand's doing because it stays in the same rhythm. We can lift and open, and even though we're going in opposite directions, we know how to get home and rest. Engage, separate, return, and sink. So the right hand and the left hand know what they're doing. There's some sort of communication going throughout the whole system. We're not monotheists in most cases. You know, sometimes we can say that there's only one God and he's up here and he's not down there. I function that way sometimes. Okay, lift overhead, and then this is, feel the sensations in your subdominant shoulder and your dominant shoulder. They're not the same. They're doing different things, but they're not in conflict. They're in harmony. It's not symmetry because there's very different movements. And so we use a term called painting the rainbow, and then we can do this again tomorrow. You know, the whole idea of Qigong is to get up every morning and do it. And you don't have to do the same sequence, but you have to hit all the bases to be healthy. Releasing the tension. Relax the arms, turn the palms up, and feel the difference between the two hands. Now, you may have a chronic injury or scar tissue on one side of the body or another, but there's dynamic sensation, energy in both hands. And this life force can differentiate and just swing one arm up and then feel the engagement of the leg below, the foot and in touch with the earth. And then relax, feel the symmetry, and then we differentiate, and there's engagement with the arm moving up, and there's engagement with the foot moving down, and the other foot's resting. And then we split the difference, and there's harmony, symmetry, and then differentiation. And that the brain is built to differentiate and then reintegrate. What does it mean to have a intention to walk over there, and there is 6 feet out, and then differentiate, and there we are, integrated. Differentiate, and now there we are. The brain has been doing that for millions of years. So when we do it with gazing at the moon, releasing, now we're balanced, symmetrical, differentiate, feel the difference between the left hip and the right hip. There's different sensations there. And then who is it that integrates all this? Who am I? Am I these hands, these hips, these feet? Or is there one who knows the whole thing and gets a real kick out of bringing it all back together into one? That's my affliction. I love coming back to the symmetry. Okay. We can open to the side, and now our hands are differentiating. Feel the sensations in your shoulder blades as you lift your hands up. And then when you release your hands from the upper position. Feel the sensations in the shoulder blades. We're giving ourselves a nice little massage. The tension that's been built in there is being released through soft, large movements. And we're reintegrating, we're healing ourselves, and we're doing it with other people. And we can tell that they're moving slowly, they're not doing anything damaging to their body. A whole bunch of people are doing harmless actions. Sadly, that's a miracle in this society. Doesn't happen all day, every day. So having the opportunity to heal together is the richest part of my week. Thank you very much. I'm going to be here on October 29th, Saturday, from 9 to 1, doing stuff like this.
Thank you, sir. All right. All right, Brio. There we go. Well, hi. Oh, I think I want to get this to work. Well, so I come back feeling a little anxious. That was not a normal Dharma talk. Maybe I'm in trouble. Any question or comment that you'd like to make? If you would like to, let me do the introduction to this device, which it is a rather sensitive microphone. If you talk into the side, it doesn't work at all, or not very well. But you'll notice the more I take it facing toward me, it actually picks up all of your voice. And if it doesn't, out here it doesn't work, and it gets better and better and better and better. In fact, the signal varies with the square of the distance, which is why when you watch people, professional musicians and singers, they always get really close to the microphone because they actually can have their whole voice. So if you try to do that, point it towards you and speak into it, it'll be much more functional. And it's a gift to everybody. It's a gift to our friends on Zoom who can't hear you if you don't. So all of that said, and please do say your name before you speak. You will not be on camera when you speak.
Would you like me to? Okay. Hi, everybody. There. Hi, my name is KB, and I have it's a big cluster of thoughts about the activist story. I am also an activist, and part of me rebels against the idea that the compassion element is important to the work, because it doesn't work, is what I've found. Trying to convince somebody or trying to get to their basic values was a system that I used to use to try to change people's hearts and minds. but I have found that it didn't work. Although they may personally feel like they understand you and they will say it, it doesn't change their actions. And being an activist, my job is to create action. So although I'm thinking about the story of your friend, I do know how it helped me was I felt a little bit better about the whole situation. You know, just I guess what I want to say is the feeling in the room was less tense. But then again, I didn't walk in hating these people, so I didn't have to overcome that particular hurdle. I'm always looking at somebody for how I can get through to them. Republicans are actually a lot more fun to try to get through to because you can, but it doesn't change their actions. So that's the thing that that makes me a little nuts when I hear that, because I had this same talk with Gregory Malouf. You know, and another thing is, as an activist, it's not my job to make somebody care. They have to care all by themselves. It's their responsibility to care. I'll nudge, I will open the door, but if they don't care, I can't change that. I can try, and that's what I do, but I can't change that. So I wanted to just throw that out there because that is my honest reaction to what I hear when you say that. However, I have gotten better at what I do because of the work that I've done here for myself, inside. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I was just curious about your comments.
Yikes. You're not sorry. I'm going to out you, however. KB is our orchid lady. She's created an orchid sanctuary at the west end of the living room where the orchids live. They get special light at night. She's also the person who took over staining all the doors downstairs when I became totally fried and saved me. So thank you for that. I think the only thing that I can say for sure is that practicing the Dharma and learning to love oneself and others is really a central thread of the journey of freedom, to one's own personal freedom. And whether it affects the major causes of our time, I have no idea. But being angry feels crappy and affects my family, and being depressed similarly feels crappy and affects everybody around me. So how to find a place of balance to then do whatever activism one does or not. I think it's what I'm struggling with in that talk that I gave earlier. I'm really trying to figure out what is the place of the Dharma in such a world as we live in. It's very clear to me, it's 100% clear to me that human beings can set themselves free from suffering with the Dharma. That is an individual path. The Buddha said way back when, the taste of this practice in the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle is the taste of freedom. The taste at the end is the taste of freedom. And I experienced that this morning with what could have become a tantrum, and has in my life a while back. Oh, the things that come to mind. a long time ago, 50 years, my girlfriend and I had returned from India overland. We were in London and we'd bought these cheap tickets. And then it appeared as though it was completely bogus and we'd bought nothing. And I was on the street in London starting to have a tantrum and she slapped me. She doesn't remember this. I do. It was great. And she slapped me and it was like, stop. And I went, oh, okay. So was that violent? I think it was a loving slap. But that's what popped to mind. Amazing. But my personality would go to that, freaked out and tantrum. It's not likely to do that anymore. So thank you. And thank you for your diligent work down in Salem and here and everywhere. Gotta.
It's very hard and interesting what you're doing because you are teaching us Buddhism in America. It's a different, I was like Jesus and Buddha, they couldn't vote. There's a responsibility element to our concept of citizenship that is a very interesting mix with what you're teaching us. And I very much appreciate it and it's helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Those of you on Zoom, if you wanted to ask a question, you could type it into the chat and, well, I could even see it if that's happening. Not yet. Okay. If you'd like to, though, you could. Please come and get the mic. And if you want to stand up here, you can be seen.
I don't want to.
You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Well, it's all right. Whatever works the best.
Oh, that's good. No one will see your face. Here we are. That's good.
Yeah. When KB was talking, I was thinking of a different take on your experience, which is coming from a different place, but isn't in opposition. I remember when I was a teacher for a long time before my current career, and this I think relates directly to activism because they're both goal-oriented, and so much of the wonder and the impact I had on kids was not things I intended. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's where this work comes in. It's like it came from being authentically myself, whatever that was at that time. And it came in unexpected ways, in ways that had little to do with me. It's like, I don't even know what I was in the process other than some sort of a conduit for something bigger or something. And to the extent I awakened in my life and have awakened, other people have felt safer to blossom around me and in ways that I can't anticipate or intend and almost have nothing to do with me. But like just you being there, I'm positive that just you doing this work and being there and healing yourself is having an impact, just maybe not in such a goal-oriented, predictable, linear. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, you didn't say your name.
Oh. I'm Asa.
There we are. Thank you. Oh, other way. There we are.
My name is Susan. I'm from the South. I'm from New Orleans. I grew up in the middle of lots of unusual circumstances and interacting with lots of different people. So for me, I've been to lots of plantations. I've been around a lot of struggling people. And even now, you know, the struggles that I'm aware of are partially because of one of my brothers, who is mayor of a parish down south, close to the Mississippi River where I grew up. And there are ongoing conflicts, probably for the last 20 plus years, that are related to industries coming into the area and the impact it has on communities, often poor communities. But there's also the other part of it, which my brother is also involved in, of making available vocational training for people who have families, who need to be able to support their children and get them a decent education. And the opportunities to do that, to make that happen, are filled for many people with compromises, just like we all compromise every day in some of the things that we do. We assume, we hope for the good of all, but there are still compromises mixed in there at times. One of my neighbors is a documentarian. Just so happens that he has been down in Louisiana working on a documentary, who's had interaction with my brother, not even realizing where I was from. And his name, both of their names are Steve. So Steve and Steve have some relationship. And I sit and watch this because I see the compromise and the difficulty. It hurts my heart deeply because I know these compromises happen all around us every day. Which makes this community even more important to me, knowing that what we do here, what my practice does, has an impact on the world around me and the people who need our unconditional love and support, regardless of the decisions they make, when they think that they have good intentions. And I think it's, for me, it's being in the middle of that experience and finding a way to hold it so that I feel like we're all moving in the right direction, even when I don't see it right in front of me. So that's it.
Thank you. I started teaching online at 7 o'clock in the morning, the day after we closed the center at the beginning of COVID. And we've had several hundred, imagine that, morning meditations. Jim's been there for 99.8% of them. And one of the things that has grown in me as a result of that, which I knew when we started that, but it's stronger now, is the incredible value of dropping into silence together in the middle of conversation, or especially difficult conversation. And I remember that one of the familiar teachings from my teacher, Ruth Dennison, was that she would say, "Are you waiting?" And then she would say, "Once you have the Dharma, you never ever need to wait again. There's always something to attend to." And what we do, of course, as a culture now, we don't wait, we fill the time. We do something. And in this instance here in the room, after that very potent, beautiful sharing with emotion, right, is powerful. And I'm now really comfortable with just being quiet for a while. And I'm saying this for any of you that haven't had that experience. It's actually how people used to relate to each other in very different circumstances. In 1971, I went trekking in Nepal. Before trekking was big business, and we'd go into a village, my girlfriend and I, we'd go into a village and we would say, I still remember, Hami yaha basna sakchao, which meant, can we stay here? Can I stay here? And they would say yes or no, and they'd point out the house that took travelers, and we'd go and stay in that house. But then we got to sit around the fire with them at night and be part of their conversation, which we couldn't understand, but we could hear it. And it was very different than I had ever experienced, in that it was, someone would speak, and then they'd stop, and then there'd be a gap, and then someone would speak, and then there'd be a long gap, or it wasn't rushed. And I had the same experience. My daughter Tara she worked among the Makushi, a native tribe in Brazil, in the Amazon, and she was there for 6 months. And I got to go visit her for a day, got a special permit, and at lunchtime, I got tired, and so they gave us hammocks out in front, outside the house. And then it was the same conversation. And I realized I was in two pre-electronic communities, and they just didn't interrupt each other, for one thing. Now, no doubt sometimes they do, but so anyway, I just wanted to say that about this dropping into silence. You know what to do when silence comes. Breathe. And then something may emerge. Somebody may have something you want to share, or I may, and then we get to do it. But it's because we're not involved in performance, right? We're involved in being humans together, vulnerable, one-of-a-kind humans. lest I forget, Connie is here, our goddess of the library, and we'll be there for a couple of hours after we're finished here. So. Please come get the microphone. Or actually, I could even move part way. There you go.
I'm more than able to come up. So I'm Jeremy. This is my first time
here. If you want to be seen here, Jeremy.
Oh, hey.
You're speaking in the first time you're here. What a bold person.
I know,
How wonderful.
But yeah, this is my first time to a meditation session. I used to attend these in Pullman, Washington, when I was working and a student there for a short time. Yeah, in the past it's helped me, and I've recently had some mental health struggles, and so I'm coming back to this. But yeah, I have a degree in Chinese culture and language, and I've studied East Asian cultures quite a bit. So I'm quite familiar with Buddhist philosophy, and the thing that really struck me about what we've been talking about this morning is just how enlightened this idea of loving and having compassion for everything, not just everyone, not just our neighbor, not our family, it's everything. It's, the Buddha taught, it's not just people, it's the ants, it's the worms, it's everything. And I think that that's an idea that is so strange in the world at large. Most people will live their entire life and not encounter this idea. And so when we encounter, people that are in opposition to us, Casey, it's, I think one of the most powerful things we can do is actually show them compassion, because they probably have never encountered it from somebody outside of their family or their network. And so, just by doing that, you're spreading this idea, and you're teaching people that something that maybe has never occurred to them in the past. We are so used to being, we're used to familial love. We're used to, love in our community, but we're not used to loving everyone and receiving love from anyone. And so that's just a very enlightened, spectacular idea. And the most enlightened teachers of the world found this, Prince Prince Siddhartha Gautama, that's what he discovered, and it was one of the key things that he discovered. And even Jesus, said, love everyone. And unfortunately, many people hear that and they think that means love everyone in your immediate surrounding, right? And so that's what they do, is they love the people that are like them. But that's not what he meant. And so, yeah, so that's all I have to say, and I really appreciate the talk today.
Thank you. Please come.
Hi. My name is Susan, and this is my third time here. I feel a little nervous. I just have a simple message that I've done a number of things over my life that I've been involved in that have been very growthful, very meaningful to me. Gone pretty deeply into yoga and creative process, parenting, lots of things. There's something about the simplicity of this that's so fabulous. Like you were saying, you don't have to wait. You don't have to just kill time if you're in line somewhere or whatever. You can always go to your breath and the bodily experience of where you are right now. And there's so much joy in that. There's like this vibrancy that I can tune into in my body that I normally miss. And it's very moving and very touching, and I just feel this hunger, like, I want to go all the way with this. It's the feeling. I may regret that.
What did you say?
I want to go all the way with this. It's like this hunger to like.
That's a fine aspiration.
Like I said, I might regret it. But yeah. I just want to thank everybody for being here and for this teaching.
Thank you, Susan. I don't think you'll regret that. Makes me think. Oh, go ahead, please come. You want down? No, please. And you can be visible if you want. There you are. And your name?
I'm Leah.
Leah.
Yeah. This is my second time here, so thanks guys for encouraging me. The thought that came up today was when you were speaking about the breeze and whether it was pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And I thought of a fourth option, and it was that could be both. And this idea that I've struggled with is that I'm trying to naturally push down the hate and the fear and the sadness in thought that I have to do that in order to feel the love and the joy and the compassion. And for me, the thought that I've had for the last several weeks is it's actually everything. It is all of it. And my peace and love and compassion comes from trying to acknowledge it all and to balance it and to acknowledge the fear and the hate and the sadness, but not let that silence the love and compassion and joy that I have simultaneously with those feelings. So that was just my thought today, is that sitting there was pleasant and unpleasant in different ways, and that it was okay and it was good. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. We're having a Quaker meeting. We are. Allison wrote in the chat, I lost it, where'd it go? Here we are. I am just loving, in caps, all these beautiful shares today, so many different perspectives to take in. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Allison. Please, come up.
I'm Linda, and this conversation has brought to mind something that I've learned this last year called the Law of Three, and it's about the polarizations and how real change is possible when we really hold space for both. And when we're there to listen and allow the opposite to be fully present as well as ours. And then the third space is that which is greater. And that then, when all of it is really present and allowed to be held and transformed by something greater, something new, completely new, beyond our imagination, is what is possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whew. Oh, want to come up here? You were behind the camera for me. Somehow I didn't see you. Oh, you can see that. It's fine.
My name is Shay, and it's been a long time since I've been here. I came here probably 12 years ago when I was going through some tough mental health stuff after the birth of my second child. And I found myself returning to a meditation practice again while dealing with some chronic illness. And I find it fascinating that I chose to come today, and this is the topic of conversation. I'm a mixed race person. I'm half Mexican and I'm half white. And I grew up in two very polarized cultures that did not understand or accept
hang on
one
just a
another.
second. I'm going to come down there. I'm going to leave the
Please.
picture here because I can't hear you here.
I'm
No,
sorry.
but that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to come because the speaker's in a terrible spot. Okay, great.
My father is Mexican and my mother is white. And I traveled between these two homes. My Mexican family valued family above all else. My white family valued culture and art and politics above all else, higher education. When I would go to my Mexican family, they would tell me, "You think you're white, you think you're better than us." When I would come back home, my white family in privileged Ashland, Oregon, they would tell me, "We need to clean you up. Your grammar's terrible. Your diet is terrible." It was traumatizing. These past 2.5 years have been traumatizing. I have called myself a liberal Democrat, and I have felt cast aside by my political party. I have chosen not to be vaccinated because I have been harmed by Western medicine and pharmaceuticals. And I have been called ruthless names. I have been told I do not belong. I am not welcome. I am dirty. I'm a racist. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I so appreciate the last comment that was made. We are not going to get anywhere polarizing each other. Nowhere. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're Jewish, Catholic, atheist. This conversation has to get much bigger and much more inclusive. I appreciate the space to be here in the conversation. And I'm shaking because I feel so passionate about all of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Wally. Thank you for your talk. My grandsons are half Mexican, half white.
Go back. Go back.
Okay.
Get it.
I'm out of the picture. Okay. So anyhow, they're still 5 and 3. No doubt, and they're very light, and no doubt they will encounter, because I mean, there's my daughter-in-law has this huge family down in Salinas around her, and her family in Mexico. We've been down there and met them, and they know us, and we get along, and they're also family up here. So there's also the white side of the family, my side of the family. So this is something that I hadn't really come to mind to me before. So that's why I want to say thank you, and why I got up here to talk, because I need to be aware of and sensitive to what my grandsons are going to be going through as they get older. Thank you.
I'm feeling pretty alive. Heart open. Is anybody sitting with something that really wants to be said before we end? Paul.
I had a lot I wanted to say, but I wanted to leave the space open. But my name is Paul. I'm on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We do have a DEI committee here at PIMC. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we wanted to open space for going forward. So I could go into a lot of reasons as to why somebody like myself is on such a committee. And the fact that we created this statement, I think was a wonderful thing. I had an indirect role in creating that statement because we were looking at our calendars and we saw Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day coming up. And oh, wow, okay. So I said, hey, to the group, this is coming up, and then this happens. So the committee is not closed. We are open to everyone, of course. Those doors are not closed. Those doors are open to everyone. We don't charge admission. We don't require membership fees or anything like that. In the same way that Dharma is open to everyone, this message of intention and of inclusion and is integral to what we're doing. So if you're interested in something like this, you can reach out to me. You can look on the website. We have contact information for this. So if you want to get involved for efforts like this, we're definitely still taking participants. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Dukkha. Said the Buddha. I'd like to close in a really respectful and simple way. And it would involve very mindfully, slowly even, forming a big circle here in the room. But don't go yet. remembering the sacredness of what's been shared and the tenderness that we might have. And then we'll come to the big circle, and then those of you online, if you'd like to unmute, it won't help if you unmute because there isn't a speaker here, but you hear each other, that'd be good, you could unmute. And let's close with a very simple chant, the sound Om. And we'll do that for a minute or two, and then there'll be a gong, and then we'll just be done then. And KB, would you go grab the gong that's in the living room? We moved it in there yesterday I think it's over in the teaching spot. And then come join us for a cup of tea and connection. And I want to thank everybody who shared today. Thank you very much for bringing the beauty of your truth to us. And for those of you that were here on Zoom, thank you. So let's move as though we were really I don't know what the word is. As though we were really, that one, that's great. No, not the bigger one. That's fine, big enough. So let's move in a very conscious fashion to form a big circle in the room. Thank you, my dear. Have fun. And let's come on up here, okay? So we'll have some people on. Contact. And if you don't want to hold hands, you can just bump elbows or something. I forgot to mention that, sorry. That's good. The sound Om vibrates all the way from the heart to the throat to the crown of the head. We may be able to feel it there. And let's make this a free Om, which means you breathe when you feel like it. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. And please now let your eyes be open and look around the circle to see yourself in your many forms. What if it's true that there really is only one consciousness? And so we come now to the testing of, is this circle permanent or impermanent? And we experiment by trying to let go. Again. again, we assume are apparently separate forms. So thank you. Do come and have a cup of tea and connect if you wish. Would you take this back? Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook or on YouTube, on Zoom.